So, Cynthia Rolón is a teacher trainer at Instituto de Formación Docente Paraguayo Americano and adjunct professor of pedagogy in the Instituto Superior de Lenguas, right? So, besides teaching, Cynthia really enjoys traveling. I think that's awesome. Traveling soon together. And she thinks backpacking is the best way to do it. I agree. I also agree. Because you can do and see more, and also you can meet more people, right? It is a very good way to know people and to know the place and the culture where you're going. Well, that's not a topic of today's topic, but exploring that way in which we do this lovely idea for a journey. So, if everybody's ready, Cynthia, if you are ready, we can start.
Thank you so much, Diana. Yes, I am super ready and excited to be here with everyone. Um, yes, I love traveling. I always say that I work so I can save money and travel more. And backpacking is awesome, as Diana said, because well, you can arrive to a place, and especially if you stay in hostels, you can make friends immediately. And I see life in general as a journey. And well, learning is also a journey. And this workshop, this session, all of these Revolution 2.0, it's a journey through learning and becoming a better person, a better educator. So I hope that you enjoy this session. And without any further ado, I am going to share my screen so we can start. Okay. Okay, so as Diana said, the name of this session is Teach, Research, Act. I am going to explain the name in a little bit. And yes, the name of the places where I work is really long, as you heard. And the things that we're going to cover are who can do research, the reason behind the name of the workshop, which is basically the whole session, and some samples of action research. And last but not least, I would love to hear your questions and also suggestions and experiences um, at the end of the session. Let's uh, let's start exploring who can do research. First of all, I would like you to tell me using the chat box, have you ever conducted research of any kind? Never think that something is too small not to be shared. Always think that you can do big things.
Hi.
Hello, Carmen.
Well, I'm currently conducting some research on sketchnoting and the influ and its relationship with vocabulary acquisition in English. That's my research.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and congrats for that. And thank you for sharing, of course.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, we have all conducted research at some point, uh, and before we start exploring who does research, I would like to share a quote by Jean Luen Yang with you. Creativity requires input, and that's what research is. You're gathering material with which to build. Okay, so you're getting things, so then you can start putting them together to make some sense out of those things. And who does research? Well, first of all, researchers, the ones that don't get involved in the research because they need to remain unbiased, and that is what traditional research is about. But then also practitioners can do research, and they can actually be part of the research. Now, Who are practitioners? Can you write it in the chat box? Well, actually, my chat box is here, I think. Well, we are practitioners, teachers, people who do something, people who practice something. So anyone can do research. But of course, I have to sell you action research. Why should you do action research? And I wrote some very simple questions to answer that question. Who knows your class better than you do? Who knows your students better than you do? And who knows how to approach your class better than you, right? You know everything about that specific situation, either if it is your own classroom or a school. And a bonus thing of why you should get into action research is that you might help other teachers with the knowledge that you have gained by conducting that research. And with that, you will be helping other people, and they will be helping you as well. Um, there are three reasons that I chose why you should engage in action research. First of all, because it doesn't require a lot of extra time. We know that teachers are very busy. You know, we have to plan, we have to actually deliver the lessons, then we have to complete many things, and then we start over again. It's a cycle. So this is a great point that it doesn't require a lot of extra time. Number two, you can be part of it. You don't need to stay outside. You can be involved and very involved in it. And number three, you can see the outcomes of your work quickly. So you don't need to wait until you finish the whole process to see the results. You can do something in short periods of time. So, I mean, it doesn't get any cooler than that, right? And yes, okay, this is so pretty. It sounds so good. Yes, we're going to do research, but is it feasible? What do you guys think? You can say yes or no in the chat box. Well, obviously, because because of the name of the session, yes, it is feasible. It is doable. You can do it. And now we're going to start exploring the reason behind the name of the workshop. And for this part, I chose a quotation by Albert Einstein, one of my idols. If we knew what we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? So we do research to find out new things so we can do more with that new information. And here, finally, the reason behind the Teach Research Act. Well, teach, because when you teach and something happens in your class, there is a specific situation that you want to know more about, that you want to explore. So because of that, you research, you look for information, you gather data, you analyze that data, and then you can gain understanding of what's going on. And also, you think of solutions that could work for that specific situation. And then the act part is because you try the solution. You see if it works. You can see if it works, and if it works, that's perfect. If it doesn't, don't worry, because well, I'm going to share the action research cycle in a few moments. So this is one of the many examples of the action research cycle. You're going to find many models, some with only 5 steps, some with 7, but This is one in the middle with 6. So the first thing that we do in action research is we identify a problem, something. It doesn't need to be something and gigantic, but it is something that you have to work with. Then you gather data, then you interpret that data, you act according to the data that you gathered and that you interpreted. Then you evaluate what happened when you actually tried that possible solution. And according to what happened, you think of what could be the next steps for you. So that's the thing. After once that you're done, are you going to continue with the cycle? Are you going to try something new? And I would like to share one action research that I did for one class. Yes, that's a lot of letters, but yeah, I'm going to tell them to you. So we're starting here. Yes. So it happened not very long ago that about half of my students were missing assignments. So I started thinking, okay, if they are missing assignments, I would like them to at least submit their term papers on time. So how can I make sure that they submit their term paper on time? And then I had extra questions. Am I not firm enough, perhaps? Are the guidelines that I give clear? Or is there something else that I'm not considering? So those were some questions that I had when I identified what I wanted to solve. So then I needed to gather information to solve this. And well, first of all, I looked at records of previous years with different groups to see if there were any patterns. And uh, and I also had some interviews with students, so I could learn more about why was that they couldn't submit uh, their assignments on time. And according to that data that I gathered, well, the records of previous courses didn't show any patterns, so there wasn't anything there. But then during the interviews, some students mentioned that the guidelines were clear, they understood everything, but they either lacked time to meet deadlines because they were working, or because they didn't know how to manage their time well, or also because they were feeling overwhelmed with all assignments, not just mine, but from all the other teachers as well. So here I identified 3 different reasons. Now, out of the 3 reasons, I chose first um, the that they weren't able to meet deadlines due to work. So the first possible solution that I thought was use class time to work on the term paper on due dates, while I kept monitoring the groups and assessing their work. And yes, I was really, really happy because it worked. They were able to submit their first draft on time, and everyone. That was amazing. So my result here was was better than I expected. And so I had to decide what would be my next steps. Okay, so of course I was excited at that point. I wanted to do more. Once you have one little result, you want, well, the sky is the limit. So my next steps, I decided that it would be, first of all, repeat it for coming drafts. I would do the same for the other draft, as well as for the final draft. Then I also decided that I would teach them some time management techniques. Also, I wanted to show them how to identify sources of information so they could find easily what they needed to put in their term paper. Then, yes, now share results with colleagues if possible. And I did this every time that I could, that there was a conversation with colleagues about something like this. Oh, you know what I did? I did this. So I didn't do it in a big way, but I shared it in small meetings. And yes, now this is one that I still need to do. Take time to write an article and submit it to an action research journal. Yes, I will do it. But this is one part that this one does take more time, but it is doable. I just need to use my own time management techniques for this specific part, and sit down and actually write it down and then submit it, and then see if it fits any journals. So this was what I did, and but I also thought, what if the possible solution had not worked out? Well, SpongeBob says it's okay to try again. After evaluating the results, the next step should be to go back here to act on evidence and try another possible solution. Then you evaluate the results and see your next steps. So this is the action research goes to here. Then you go to the evaluation part. You decide what the next steps would be. And if it didn't work, you just go back here. Yes. Unless that you see the need to re-identify the problem, in which you just go to the beginning again. So it's a cycle. And it's up to you when it stops, actually. Now, the first time that I learned about action research, it was basically love at first sight for me. I really liked it because I saw that it wasn't useful only for a classroom or a school setting, but you could also use it in life to solve other kinds of situations. So I asked my students to try to use it in their lives, and then they could tell me what happened. And these were very cool things that happened. One problem that one person identified was that they were forgetting to bring assignments, and this was during in-person classes. So it was a bit ago. And the solution that they found was that they created a WhatsApp group so the class president could remind them. Because now, yes, we do everything through a platform, and we don't have that excuse. But back then, oh, I forgot to print it, I forgot to bring it, and some people actually just forgot to print and bring the assignments. So the solution that they found was so easy, so simple, and it worked. So as you can see, it's not necessary that you want that you try to deal with super big things, but you can try it with things that are apparently smaller. Okay, so another person mentioned not getting a job, and I thought, okay, so how can action research work for this part? And so this person told me that they noticed, I mean, they realized that they were actually sending a resume to one company and then waiting until that company gave them a reply. And just after that process, they were submitting a resume to another company. So what they did was sending many resumes to many companies at the same time. So in the end, they ended up actually getting a job. And Wow, yes. So action research is getting cooler. Another student told me that they use it in a class of their own. They had a young learner that was misbehaving a lot, so they used the action research cycle to try to find activities that would keep them engaged in learning. So another great use. And well, this is probably a favorite one. Not saving any money. Yes. So they found out that their approach to saving money was not the best one, because they were trying to save money after spending it all, basically. So once they realized that saving it before actually spending it all, uh, then they were able to save money. So I just wanted to share with you these examples that are not exactly to solve a classroom issue, but it works. You can use it in other aspects of life as well. Now you know what action research is about, and I want to know: have you ever done one unknowingly? Please use the chat box to tell us. Well, we wait to see if someone has something to share. Well, there teachers constantly are trying to find new ways of doing things with students, of motivating students to keep the learning process going. So it's most likely that a that you guys have engaged in action research at some point, but you didn't know that it had a name. So now you can just put a name to what you did. Oh, okay. Now I see it. I was in the wrong chat. I was thinking, okay, so nobody is writing. Now I see that I was looking at the event chat. Now I'm looking at the session chat. Okay, so okay. Oh, that's great, Edwin. That's great. It's you know, and can you tell us what was your topic?
Hello, Cynthia. Yes, of course. Well, I follow a master's program. I finished it, and of course, we had to try the thesis. And I, before pandemic, I started researching about develop writing skills. Right. My students, most of them were B2 students trying to prepare for international exams. And one of the weakest point, one of their uh, disadvantages they have, they were when trying to write academic stuff. So my idea said, why can they do this? And then I started asking for that, and we created some questions, and then we started following the process of the writing process. All right, and yeah, it was good. It took like about a year and a half trying to get information, and we agree that technology can help us. We tried to make an app, but it was faster with uh, the office documents we had, because it's easier for the students to get documents from an office at the university. Yeah, they tried it, and we had the follow up for about two more cycles, which is 1 year. About my students improve improve their writing skills definitely. So it was something good. It was something good for us. And then I share with some of my colleagues, and they say that it worked. and it helped me. Yes.
Wow, thank you very much for sharing. Yeah, that seems like a fantastic experience. And if you think about the time that it took you to solve that issue, it isn't that long. And then you have the bonus that you can use a similar approach in the future, and also the other teachers that you shared your results with will be able to use your results. So thank you very much for sharing and for doing action research. Now, Um, now I would like to show you some very simple samples that I got from one of the materials that I'm going to share with you at the end. And to introduce the samples, I chose this quote by Michael Morpurgo. It's the teacher that makes a difference, not the classroom. So it doesn't matter how beautiful your classroom looks. Well, it's actually you, the one that is creating that change, that is creating the motivation or helping with the motivation and creating the expectation. Now, these samples are super simple, but they are also very enlightening. Now, the first example that I chose, it's titled "Different Kinds of Feedback." Um, the problem that this teacher found was that students were not trying to improve their work, and I think that this is something that all of us have noticed at some point. So the research question and action plan was: if I change the kind of feedback I usually give students from negative to positive and direct them to different ways they could revise their work, would they make more effort to improve? And then in the data collection, this teacher compared the results of tests and assignments before and after the plan was enacted. And the results were that most students improved their work. So she was successful. Yeah, I don't know why I said she. I assumed it was a she, but it doesn't say. That's the correct answer. Another example that I chose is motivating learning. Again, something so abstract. The problem that this teacher noticed was that students were not very motivated to engage in the study of history. Yes, depending on how you approach it, history could be boring, or it could be the most amazing journey in your life before your first trip in life. When I was in uh, when I was in middle school, I remember my history classes, and well, actually, I don't remember anything. I just remember that we were 60 in our classroom, so poor teachers, and basically we did group work every class, and where one or two of each group of six or more students uh, were together in each group. So up to two people worked. Then we presented what we did. So it wasn't memorable. But my mother, on the other hand, had a different experience because she had a very passionate teacher that actually used the same approach that this teacher used. This the research question and action plan was: would using personal anecdotes or current real world examples about the concepts they were studying, such as conflicts and conflict resolution, would make the lesson more valuable to students? And for the data collection, he had students keep journals about what they were learning from traditional lessons and for the more connected lessons with more meaningful examples or or ways of teaching. And the result was that learning improved. Again, another case of success by using action research. Another example that I chose is using contracts. I bet that many of you have used this with your students, especially if you teach children or teenagers. You can, well, most of teenagers and children teachers use contracts with their students. And this teacher had the problem of one student that wasn't completing reading assignments for homework. So as you can see, this wasn't a whole class issue, but it was just one student. So you can also use action research to to approach a problem that is with one student. Here, the research problem and action plan was, would using a contract with the student raise the rate of homework completion? And on days that she completed her assignments, she could play games during free time. And for the data collection, the teacher kept records of how much homework was turned in before and after the contract. And the result was that the amount of homework completed by that student increased. So, again, another case of success. And this is the last example that I chose, and that it was about reducing anxiety. Now, this is a very trending topic now. Anxiety has always been around, but the rate of students displaying anxiety raised since last year because, well, there was a big change in their lives, in our lives. So this teacher found that some students were exhibiting anxiety and mistrust while going through lessons. And her research question and action plan was, if I change my teaching to put a lesson outline and plan on the board before I begin the lesson, would it lessen students' anxiety? And for the data collection, the students kept journals reflecting on their feelings. And these journals reflected a growing sense of calm. Now, these results are different from the previous examples that I showed you, because these work with some students, but others may need a different intervention. So then this teacher can start the action research cycle again, but for specific cases, just like the one that did the action research for one student. Have you guys tried anything similar in your own classes? Did you find any similarities with things that you have experienced? You can tell us in the chat box. Well, I've had. And when I see that other teachers had similar problems and also found solutions, well, this gives me or allows me to think, if another teacher could do it, I can do it too. And well, I can start something like they tried, because I don't know very well how to do this. But then once I feel confident enough, I can do it. I can do my own. And then in that way, this helps me to grow professionally. Okay. So Ruth has tried it, and Evelyn as well. Sometimes our ideas or techniques can't be applied to everyone. Exactly. Yes. You need to adapt the different ideas according to specific students or settings. Exactly. Yes. Every student is different, and we need to keep that in mind when we cannot use the same solution with everyone, because luckily uh, every student is different. We are all different. So these were the four examples that I chose. And now, for the wrap up, I chose this quote by Peter Morville: "What we find changes who we become." So once that you have done action research, that changed your practice forever. So it changes you as a teacher and as a person. And besides, I think that besides helping you to find a solution to a problem, action research is a very important and valuable source of teacher development. Through reflecting about your own practice, you become a better educator. And something that I didn't write here, but you're also setting an example for your colleagues, because uh, we are being observed all the time. Not I'm not talking about like when someone goes to observe your class, but when but people see you, people see what you do, and they notice that there's something different going on. So um, what you do becomes of value, no, not just for you, but also for other people. So that is basically what I wrote in the second part. Moreover, it allows you to realize that your knowledge is valid, that you and your colleagues can create new knowledge, and that you can share it with others, creating a sense of community. It is very important that we teachers remember that we are leaders in our class, with our students, in our community, in our school community. And well, we need to start owning that spot that we have, and validating what you know. Uh, it's a big step towards that. Um, I have involved my students in tiny action research so far. I haven't done anything big as Edwin has done, but yes, I have asked my students to actually do action research. Um, so yes, I haven't gotten there yet. And now students can be involved in action research. I am actually I want to try a new approach with my students, so we can work on one specific issue, but all together. And so I would like them to come up with the possible solutions and try them out. And well, this will be a huge step. Let's see. But for developing teaching techniques in order to help them with getting knowledge. Oh, okay. That's yes, yes. Okay. I think that if they know their teacher is doing research, it is a good model for them. Exactly. Yes. We need to start setting an example. Um, in in what is the name that we're using now in developing economies? Um, we need to start setting new good role models for our students. We need to start developing research, especially in countries like mine. The research in all aspects, it's giving their first steps basically. So we need to encourage them. We need to show them, oh, I did this. If I did it, well, I'm not that different from you. I am right here in front of you, and well, you can do it too. Okay, how different could it be dealing with assessment and an action research? Um, you mean a assessment of the result of the result of the action research, or the assessment to students of their students' work? Classroom management. Oh, okay. Uh, okay, with students' work. Well, Well, first of all, my students work in groups, what I usually use is, I assign roles in each group, and I keep monitoring them at all times. So in that way, I can see who is doing the what, and I usually do this both in-person classes, like when I just need to walk around the class and check on what they're doing. But I have also done it virtually. Uh, I use Zoom for my most of my classes. So when they are working in breakout rooms, I just keep visiting them and asking them questions. And one thing that I have also done is, besides putting them in breakout rooms, they had to work in a Google document. So I could actually keep track of what they were doing in real time. And with that, I know that they are working. If I see that someone is not, one of the documents, one of the slides or whatever they are working on, uh, it's it's empty, so I need to go to that group more quickly than any other groups, so I can continue checking on them. Let's see. Yes, making contracts with students is a really good idea, and I know many colleagues of mine have tried that, and it definitely works. Let's see. Chris says that I am doing an action research using free writing as an intervention. May I ask for a suggestion on how to assess my students before implementing it? Okay, so you want to do free writing for the first stages of a bigger project? Can you please give me more details? Because sometimes it depends on the nature of what you're doing. So sometimes a test, an actual test before and after works. Some other times, you could ask them to write some type of journal, like a weekly journal, and so you can see what was the situation at the beginning and also at the end, and of course the whole process. So it might depend on what is the topic that you are covering. I uh, i assume that is a well, perhaps it is about a term paper, a project, or an intervention for a social issue. So if it is a social issue, then you can perhaps give them a sort of test uh, about feelings toward what is going on at the beginning, and a space to write something more freely. And then at the end, you also check on them to see if those feelings have changed. This is something that is normally used with bullying, for example. You check what your students know before you actually start the intervention, and then at the end, you test them again to see if at least they have gained knowledge that they could use, and then you can observe if changes actually happen. I hope that that has answered your question. Exactly. Yes, exactly. A test before the intervention, and then after the intervention. And in the other case, you can ask them to write a paragraph, perhaps, if you don't want to, or if you don't need to use some kind of test. Let's see. So Karina says that the same happened to her. She was applying research for 16 sessions, and she was pretending to make a pretest and post-test, but during the sessions you couldn't see their progress. Okay, so in that case, I then for future times, so that is again an part of the action research process in your next steps, because you couldn't see their progress. You could either do tests in between, or find another way of assessing the process. Keeping journals is something that works really well, because students keep reflecting themselves as well, because I assume that they did know that you were doing this, right? But if they don't know, well, you can still ask them to write perhaps short journals, so they can also see that there is something that is changing. Yes, it works. At the beginning, if it is something new that you are doing, students might not like it much, but once they see, then once they notice that you are not judging them, that you are just reading what they are writing without any kind of judgment, then they won't have any problems with this. And I personally went through this process, and also many friends back then, and now friends and colleagues too, uh, because it is not something, well, it wasn't very common for us back then. Let's see. Okay, so Carmen says that she thinks that Karina can do some adjustment to the strategies she's using in order to change the results. Yes, exactly. In the next steps, what can I do? What can I change? You go back again to analyzing the data that you have, so you see what other things you can try, and then you continue with the cycle to give a good feedback. Uh, Well, first of all, feedback, it's better when it is positive. Even if you have to tell them something that is not so good, well, you can find a way to make it look positive. So, for example, I'm going to think of something. So you gave them an assignment to write an essay, and you gave them a specific format, but they didn't follow the format. So you can tell them, well, I think the topic that you chose is really good, and I can see that you can explain the details very well. I see that you know the paragraph structures, um, but you just need to adapt it a little bit to fit the format that I showed you. So do you have a copy, or the document with the format? Oh yes, I do have it here. Okay, let's compare it now, and then you compare, and they will tell you, oh, I can put this here and that there. Exactly, very good. Let's see. It is referring to oral capacity, their record, their dialogue, and redo it in order to improve them. Karina uses rubrics, but they are dealing with their pronunciation. Yes, yes, and pronunciation. To correct pronunciation, uh, well, there are many things that, or many ways that you can correct it. Um, and the one that I like the most is just to repeat it correctly afterwards. Once, for example, we're practicing a conversation, and after the conversation, the whole exercise ends. Okay, now let's practice some vocabulary. Do you guys remember what this was? And Oh, sorry. And then, okay, now repeat after me. Or another way in which I usually try to model good pronunciation is once that they have given their response, I repeat it, but I pronounce it well, and I put a little bit of emphasis on what was wrong, but not too much, so I don't make it obvious. Yes. So those are two techniques that work. Now, in the case that you're mentioning that they are recording, uh, well, they can listen again, and then they can listen to you, and then oh, okay, so this is what I'm doing wrong, or that I should do better. So they can even compare it. Okay, so we're okay. So before we finish, we have 3 minutes left. Um, I put together a list of useful resources in case you want to read more about action research. Now, this is a book that I really loved about action research, and this one you have to buy it. But one of the authors of this book put together a booklet on her website, so you can also read that one. Now, all of these ones are booklets that you can read, and there's a lot of theory in them. So I put together another list that has only step-by-step guides. On these 3 websites, you're going to find step-by-step guides. You will even find some templates that you can use. If you don't know how to start, well, there are templates and you can check them out. And yeah, and yes, and now this is something that I thought about this morning. Yes, I can share it with you because okay, so now time for questions. Oh, do you guys have any other questions? You can keep asking them. And well, here's the picture of a cute cat for you. This is my thank you for being here, for staying, for participating. Um, and this. Okay, I'm sorry about the bright colors, but not I'm not really sorry because I love bright colors. So yes, you can get this whole presentation in a PDF. I put it, and this is the link, or you can just read this thing and you can get it.